welcome back, everybody. We are thrilled that you are here to join us for lunch break. These are conversations that we are hosting every weekday at noon on topics of interest in our community, from managing stress to small business solutions right now and parenting. We have invited some experts from our community on these topics to guide us and share us with their wisdom. Today, we are going to be talking about calming and deepening your connection with your children at this time. I mean, I think this can go for any time, but right now, I think it is a good conversation to have. We've invited on an awesome panel today. We have Lynette Parado, an entrepreneur and a mother of two, Marianne Cortez, a life and mental health counselor, and Tanya Parade. Say it for me, please. I was getting close. Paredes. Everybody knows how bad my Spanish is, even as co-founder of the Las Comadres. I am sorry. She is a therapist, and they are all members of our community and doing wonderful things. So this is a conversation about kids and, how to deepen that connection with your children. Every lunch break we start with the same question, and it is, what are you grateful for today? Go ahead. Lynette.
I'll start. I'm so full of gratitude these days, just for my health, the health of my loved ones, and Las Comadres for this group, the support and all the resources that we can find here are the three things that could come to mind right now.
Awesome.
I'll go next. So likewise, I'm especially very grateful to my health in these days and the health of my loved ones. I'm also grateful to be here in this space. I love my one-on-one work and, more of that hands-on work that I get done. And so this virtual space is different. It's putting me out of my comfort zone, and I'm grateful for the opportunity in this space to talk about this topic.
Perfect. And I am grateful for the opportunity to be able to impart information to my fellow comadres and to my fellow peers. I'm also grateful for being able to see. I'm just getting over a pretty nasty infection in my left eye, a pretty bad eye ulcer that could have took away my vision in my left eye. So I've been able to see now for a week and a half from the beginning of March out of my left eye. So I'm very grateful to be able to see out of both my eyes.
That is a lot to be grateful for. Congratulations for your sight coming back.
Yes.
I'm sure that was a really hard thing to deal with. Today, I am grateful for the people that are still working. We had some serious plumbing issues going on at my house. I'm very, very grateful for the septic tank cleaners. That is my gratefulness for today. Okay, so we're talking today about calming and deepening your connection with your children. Right now, kids are in a massive transition along with the rest of us, and what effects this is having on kids. Do you guys, what are some of the effects that you are seeing? What are some of the effects that are kind of top of mind just from the quarantine right now?
To me, I have two teenagers. I have a senior in high school, and I have one that's about to turn 13 in 2 weeks. So it's been a lot of emotion. As we know, seniors don't get a prom this year. They don't get to a physical graduation. We just got confirmation that it's virtual. Also, when my daughter, because of her GPA and stuff, they're going to have another sort of celebration through Zoom. And we already had her dress, so it's hanging in her closet. So it's been a lot of feelings. Like as much as they know and they're grateful that we're healthy and that we have a roof, over our heads and food on our table, it's still a lot of emotions. And it's just been allowing her to go through them and feel her feelings. So my little one, she's just happy to be home. I mean, she's fine. She's just happy to be home, and it hasn't been too emotional there. But with my senior, as much as she understands and she's so mature about the situation, you know, it sucks. It sucks, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I think a lot about the seniors, actually, a lot of the high school students, because despite everything, many of them, even if academically they're not a fan of school, they like going to school to see their friends. I think it's important to kind of take into account the developmental stage of your kid. So I have an almost 8-year-old, a boy who's in 2nd grade, and I have a little one who just turned 4, and he's about to go into pre-K if everything goes fine in August. So it's different because it's like the younger one loves that we're home all the time. It's almost like how people's pets are right now, that they're just so happy that we're around all the time. And even then, I still have to do some work out of here. So it's kind of like, yes, I have to actually leave today, you know? And it's going to be interesting kind of adjusting back to whatever it is that we're going to adjust back to, because it's kind of unknown yet. And the older one, the whole thing with the virtual school, you know, that a lot of the parents of the elementary school age, you know, it's, you still need a lot of hands-on, whereas the older middle school teenagers, you can kind of be more hands-free with them, with like monitoring the stuff at school. So I think depending on their ages, it's like each age takes more, I don't know, they have very specific needs and wants and emotions with all this.
So similar to Marianne, my kids are, I have a girl who's almost 9, and then I have a son who's 4. He's about 4.5. So God willing, they will be in 4th grade and pre-K 4 in the fall in person. And I'm sure that the other ladies can probably attest to this. I've noticed as of, I believe this is week 5, that we're all on quarantine. There's week 6, whatever it is. And I think now is when we're going to start seeing a lot more increase in behaviors, not just in children, but in people. I don't think human beings are designed to be locked in a house for 5 weeks straight for the most part. And there are people that are truly quarantining, truly not leaving, not even to the market. So I think there's a lot going to be a spike in anxiety in all of our kids. I think that now they're realizing that they're not going, like for real, they're not going back. I mean, obviously we all knew that, but I think they haven't seen their friends in person in 5+ weeks. And I think that they're really feeling, like Lynette said, they're feeling their feelings, and it's very sad for them. While I'm sure there's kids that are elated not to be going to school, like she said, their kids go to school to see their friends. It's a large social component of their normal developmental life. That's really taken away from them, obviously for a good reason and for safety. And I think we as parents, we all agree that we're happy that they're home and safe, but it's a real loss. And so the feelings of loss that my daughter's expressing, my kids are very social children. They don't like to not see their friends. My son refused to go on his Zoom call with his class today. He told me, if I can't see them, I don't want to see them. And I didn't force him because he didn't want to do it. And I didn't want to force it because I don't see a point to it. You know, he has a right to not want to see them. I mean, it probably upsets them, I'm going to assume, right? Because they see them, but they can't touch them. So, you know, this is the week that I've noticed. This in the beginning of last week was really the week that I started noticing a lot more symptoms in not just my kids, but in other people's kids.
Yeah, definitely. My kids are 11, 13, and 14, and it has been a very interesting, like, roller coaster ride of, you know, it's almost as if one person goes through one emotion and the other people are at some other point, and we just keep looping around in through them. And it's always really interesting to me, like, what the thing is that is the tipping point, right? Like the, you know, the fact that they have to do, like, one of my kids, PE was the thing that threw them over the edge. Like, she was just like, like, why do I have to write this down? No,
Mhm.
you're doing extras. Like, you just have to, I can fill it in for you. Like, and it obviously wasn't about the PE. It was about like that she just didn't want to do it. And she was tired of the way that it was happening and she wanted to see her friends. And PE used to be fun and now it's like a chore and whatever. But it is always interesting to see, you know, we just tell kids these things and then we're like, yeah, deal. But obviously they are human just like us.
Yes.
And, you know, understanding all the pieces of the things that are happening makes it a little bit hard. So dealing with the shifting of like the school schedule and, you know, just life in general, do you guys have any tips on what can make it easier? What makes it feel, I mean, maybe different but better? What are some of the things that are helping people, you know, make this a little bit more positive of an experience?
I feel, well, for us, we were a little all over the place at the beginning. We were just, the sleep schedule was off. No one had a schedule. We were just trying to figure it out. And then we realized, okay, we need some type of schedule to get things done because it can get overwhelming. We realized very quickly that the load of work was massive online, and we weren't expecting that. And it was just too much, and they were getting overwhelmed. Every time they opened their calendar, it was so much work from this teacher and this teacher and this teacher. So we had to kind of create some type of schedule to have some type of normalcy, like, okay, get up, even if you don't have to get up at 7 or 6:30 in the morning to go to school, get up at 10. But I can't have you go to sleep so late because you're tired and you're sleeping till 1, till 2, and then you're overwhelmed because these needs to be in by midnight, but you want to squeeze in TV time and family time and this. So it was getting very overwhelming, and that's how we started guiding ourselves back into, we need a schedule even if we're home. We have to in order to get things done. And that's what I feel that has been working for us.
For us, it kind of started the opposite. I feel like we knew off the bat, like at the beginning, that there was going to be things with work were shifting dramatically. So we tried to keep like the normalcy at home with the whole school stuff. But then demands increased for my husband and for myself with work. And we had to kind of shift things of like, we have to take care, you know, I would have to be on certain calls in the morning. Whereas before my son was in the morning doing all the stuff. And what's helped is kind of to be adaptable and to stay flexible there, and keeping them informed as soon as possible, or as soon as we know that there's something going to be different. So if before we were doing things in the morning, I have to really think about what's going to happen the next day and say, tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to start off with this. And then you're going to get like some break time because we're going to be doing this. But as soon as we're done, you're back on. Because I think it throws kids off if we change things, you know, we get them out of the routine unexpectedly. And right now I've also noticed that, you know, before the teacher was sending things like, this is for Monday, this is for Tuesday, kind of threw us off because she sent everything for the week and I was going on a daily. It helped me kind of structure the day. So now I think she is actually adapting to what some of the feedback from the parents, which is that they cannot complete everything that's for Monday. Can they do it on a Saturday or whatever the schedule is like. So I think for the most part, teachers are being flexible. They're trying to communicate as best as they can with us and adapting as well. So I've been learning to kind of see some of the assignments of like the whole thing with PE. Likewise, we have to keep a log. So, you know, there's certain things that I'm like, yeah, you know, we're going to prioritize practicing writing skills, and, you know, we might go run around outside and do some other stuff. You know, I think we have to kind of stay flexible and adapt and kind of what works for you. And, you know, just, I don't even want to say prioritize because that's hard to do right now. I think it's just more of like what you need, what's essential, basically. So yeah, I think now it's kind of challenging what you're saying. I'm noticing, especially now. Also, the other thing too is that school is not going to go back for this year. So even myself, I kind of feel a little bit laid back on some of the things, even though they are getting done. But in some ways, I feel like, I don't know, there was like some kind of accountability extra, knowing that maybe they would go back and check on things. But so.
So, you know, the two things that are probably missing right now in children's lives around the country and around the world, if this is a global pandemic, it doesn't just affect us, is predictability and control. So those two things are really gone. I mean, for most of us, but really for them. So as parents, we provide that. So at the beginning, I was very upfront with my daughter. She's extremely mature. I don't hide the world from her. I told her exactly what was going on, that it would be affecting a lot of people. One of the hats that I wear is I'm the bereavement social worker at Nicholas Children's Hospital. So I treat the parents that have lost a child at Nicholas. So death and conversations about illness and death are very open conversations in my house because it's a hat that I wear. So I was very upfront, and I told her what was going to happen, that she likely wouldn't go back to school, just because I saw that other states were not going back to school. So I figured there's no way Florida is going to go back to school, right? And I asked her, what do you need? Do you need me to be on top of you? Do you need me to remind you? And she said, no, give me a checklist. Much like Marianne said, the parents gave feedback to the teacher and said, send us the lesson plan on Sunday and let the kids do it as they can. The only thing the teacher really micromanaged what was done was math. Math was the one thing that she did via Zoom, and that she does via Zoom every day. Everything else, she said she wouldn't adhere to turn-in dates. All of the teachers have been pretty good. Up until very recently, I was going to the hospital because of my job. There still are deaths that are happening that are non-COVID related. So I was still working. I mean, I am still working even now. So I was very clear with them that I'm at a hospital, so I couldn't sit there with her until noon doing math because my husband is also an essential worker. So they were pretty good with us, but I think they're pretty good with all children. In the beginning, and maybe the other ladies can see if this was something that was happening to them. She was staying up late, right? Because like we have no school, so let's be up till midnight. And then one day I walked out. She was reading with my husband. They both like to read. I don't, but don't tell anybody that I don't like to read. I don't like to read. And they were up on the couch. It was like 11:30, and they were both reading books. And I walked out and I go, you need to go to sleep. It's late. And my husband looks at me and he goes, why? She wants to be up here reading with me. Why does she have to go to sleep? And I looked at him and I said, all right, good night. And I left them alone because she clearly needed to spend time with her father reading. Yes. And so who am I to tell her that she doesn't need that? The only thing I said is, remember that you need to be up between 8 and 9 to start your school. And she's been up between 8 or 9, and she does most of her schoolwork in the morning with no problem. So, you know, that's really the key. And I think that the other ladies can probably attest to this, is like all kids are different. Some kids need that checklist and they need to know what's coming. Yeah. Some kids want to know day by day. My daughter wants to see the whole week, and she will plan out the week. And as of 12 o'clock today, she's done with her schoolwork. Tomorrow, she's completely free. She's done. She has nothing to do tomorrow. And if that gives her some amount of control and predictability, and that's what she needs, then that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's like knowing your kid, right? Like knowing which ones you have to stay on top of, knowing which ones you have to give the freedom, knowing which ones you need to, even if they tell you everything is all right, checking back in. You know, we have had multiple, you know, everything's fine, and we go look in the grade book and there are missing assignments and all of that. And luckily the teachers are being very nice about it. And, you know, it is, some of it has been mistakes on her part, some of it has been mistakes on the teacher's part, and, you know, we're all just figuring this out. All right, so we came here today to talk about calming and deepening the connection with our kids. What are you guys doing in your houses, or even telling your patients to do to really like be able to take this opportunity to be able to know your kids a little bit better? What are the different things that help or make you feel better, make them feel better?
For us, I've always had a very good relationship with my daughters. So the doors of communication are always open, especially now. that we're going through so many changes and so many emotions, and it's day by day. One day it's one thing, the next day is the other. And I know just as I go through the motions, they do too. And truly, truly, truly holding space for them, not trying to fix it, not trying to step in and say, but this, but then do that. But, be grateful. We can always have it worse. We're healthy. No, just holding space and letting them, when they come in, and I go back to my oldest because she's the one that has had the most changes. Just listening. And if you're angry and you're frustrated today, it sucks. And just sit there and she'll figure it out and she'll vent, and then she'll leave the room and go on about her business, and then we're all fine playing Monopoly or playing cards. But she was able to let it out, and I was able to hold space for her and just sit there and listen, because I can't fix it even if I want to. This is out of our control. And it's painful. And so it's, to me, it has been, just having the conversations when they want to, when they feel like it's needed, not forcing it out of them, not like a daily thing. How do you feel today? What do you feel about this? They'll let me know, because the communication has always been there. So they feel comfortable coming to me. And then truly holding space and not trying to be the helicopter parent and say, but we could do this. How about this? Or feel this way, feel that way. No, just sitting there and listening. And that has been working. And it's a journey. We're still going through it. And until this is over, it'll still be different stages. But I think that's what has worked the most for us.
Very nice. So the people that are watching on Facebook, if you guys have any questions at all, please type them in the chat. We will answer whatever it is. If you have practices that you are doing, if you have any questions at all, please let us know what they are. Marianne, what have you guys been doing at your house that feels like you are getting that deeper connection?
So again, I think it depends with the stage that your child is in. My kids are a little bit younger, and for them, the connection, especially for the little one, and this goes for younger ones, for anybody that's listening, the younger children, pre-K and under, and even some of the older kids that are still in elementary, for them is playtime. Right now, it's a little bit hard to manage all the boundaries going on at home, because you're working from certain spaces that before you weren't working so much, and there's more school stuff going on. But trying to make the space to play, to just play, disconnect from the news, disconnect from the Zoom social stuff that you want to connect as an adult, and just playing. I think for me, it helps me unwind, especially for the little one, and it provides connection, because otherwise I feel it when we're not connected. It's the whole day, mommy, play with me, mommy, play with me, mommy, play with me. Or watch this, watch that. And really, that's how they want to connect. They want to be sitting alongside with you. I've become an expert voiceover actress for Lego people. And so it's been interesting. That can be unwinding. Unwinding for me can also just be something such as, I think I brought this up before, but even coloring. And I'm thinking also in that he's the age that he's in, preparing him for what's ahead when he starts school. The fine motor skills. So that's kind of a downtime for us, that we're just gonna color or do something like that. So I think for the younger ones, playtime can be something that helps with connection and managing the stress, getting out of the adult brain for the parents and for the kids. Also trying to have some kind of personal self-care. Before, there was so many excuses why I couldn't, get exercise in, and it was such a battle with time and schedule and willpower and a bunch of things. And I appreciate this time, because I feel like there's more space for it now, and it's not forced or anything like that. Not that it was before, And I think that helps me as well for them, because if mom is irritable and is lashing out or yelling or stuff like that, then the household itself is not going to be, you know, the ambiance that everyone wants it to be. I kind of think of it as like you're like the tree and the kids are the fruit, and if you nourish the tree, you know, the fruit is gonna thrive off of that. So those two things, you know, because of the ages that they're in, playing with them, watching. The older one likes Minecraft and stuff like that, and other things that he plays with. It's like watching him, trying to have some of that uninterrupted time, because I think that's what a lot of them need. They need time, space, and attention.
Definitely.
So yeah, so I agree with this about, backing off them and seeing really what they need. We all kind of need a break during the workday. So kids really are no different. And when they're in school, and I'm sure that Lynette can attest to this because she has a senior, the older kids, they go hard all day and they have very little breaks. So if we can afford them that break and they can take a 30-minute play Minecraft, Super Mario. My 4-year-old has discovered Super Mario. I'm like reliving my youth through him. They want to watch silly TV. I mean, it's like, okay, right? So one of the things that I've done, I've taken advantage that now obviously we're all virtual. So I've printed out a lot of little quotes to tell people. And so this is the one that I show to my daughter sometimes. And sometimes if I see her, we all know our kids, right? So we know when something isn't right. So when my daughter starts to fidget, I just walk up to her and I just go, and it just,
Yes.
and I go, what do you need? Do you need to go outside? Do you want to FaceTime with a friend? Do you want me to leave you alone? And I ask her, right? She needs to learn to read her body when she doesn't feel like it's okay. This is not normal. This is also not homeschooling. People that homeschool will tell you this is not homeschooling. This is this is also not working from home. It's not even that, because people that work from home will tell you this is not working from home. So it's a very unique situation, and where I think that the world continues to function, jobs continue to function, but it's not a normal situation. So I've been very clear to, especially my daughter, because she's almost 9, that I don't expect her to get the kinds of grades that she did. I mean, she still is, but that's because she wants to. But I backed off completely on that because she doesn't need me on top of her, on top of the fact that she's in an unnormal situation. So a lot of connection. If I see that she's had a long day or she looks kind of tired, I'll ask if she wants to watch a show with me. My little one also, if he, my son is not a cuddler, my daughter is, but if he sees us cuddling, he'll want to cuddle. So like the little ones may have a little bit of what people would consider regressive behaviors. I mean, I think we could all agree that it's not regressive. It simply is, they just have different needs right now, right? And maybe they need to cuddle, or maybe they need to be held, or maybe they need to sleep with us first.
Maybe we all do need to be held.
Yeah, right. And so, a lot of people will see that as, oh, my kid is regressing. And I go, we just have different needs, and it's okay for them to say, I want to cuddle, or, I don't want to be on, I don't want, like my daughter the other day, I offered her, listen, one of your friends is asking to FaceTime. And she goes, I don't want to. I've been staring at a screen all day long. I go, okay, I'll let her know tomorrow. And that's okay too. And other times she would jump on that, and she just didn't want to look at a screen, and I can't blame her for that. Yeah. So being able to really understand what our particular kids' needs is, and then responding to that, whether that's connect, leave them alone. I mean, that's an intervention too. Leaving them alone is an intervention, right? And being able to ask, what do they need? And then giving them that, that's probably the best thing that we can all do now.
Yes.
Definitely. So for the people that are experiencing some resistance from their children, do we have any advice on either the not wanting to eat dinner with the family because I have seen you people for the last 30 days and I am tired of looking at your faces, for the not wanting to be on we already talked about like not wanting to be on some school calls, where the resistance is, maybe a little more than we normally would expect. Is there any advice on this?
Well, first of all, a lot of the community work that I've done is actually with teenagers and kids, and a lot of the private clients I have are mostly they're all adults basically. And I love working with resistant teenagers. Actually, they're the kids that are the crying and like very emotional. I remember I used to like hand off those cases, like give me the angry kids, the ones that don't want to talk to the therapist. I love working with them. So with resistant kids, I think, or the behaviors really that's resistant, not that the child is resistant. You kind of have to see where it's coming from, and there's so much there that can be going on. It could be that the household itself just had this dynamic happening already. Some households are very much connected, and like Lynette was saying, that kids find their parents to be approachable. And I think for a lot of parents of like some of the older kids that might be showing like resistant behavior, maybe before it feels nice because that your kids are safe, you see them, they're home all the time. But now it's getting to that point where it's like they don't want to come out and eat, they don't want to come out and talk, they don't want to connect. And part of it, I think, is communication, obviously, and trust. So usually if the communication is down, then you get the trust. And if you get the trust, you can get them to cooperate. But the way that we communicate can be so many things. It could be, with our body language. It could be with simple things that saying you're always, or you're never, or you should. And if then the connection is not there, the person is naturally going to want to defend themselves. So you kind of have to switch the language a lot of like, I missed you. I would love to see you come and eat with us now that you're here all the time. And just that shift in language, shift in body posture as well. Kids can be very keen on the nonverbals. So they know how, if it's a household where there's different siblings, they pick up on the way that your tone sounds, your body posture, the way you speak to one sibling, and it might change with somebody else. The other thing too, you can kind of get into their world as well. This works well with the younger children when the kids are being resistant. So if your child doesn't want to cooperate with you, and let's say it's like a girl and she's into Frozen, get into their world, use their language. Electronics are frozen. They're frozen, and they're gonna, I don't have girls, so I'm not sure what the storyline is, but I need you to have breakfast because Elsa came last night and everything is frozen and we have to do blah, blah, blah.
That's pretty accurate for someone who doesn't have girls. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
I hear it all the time. So, get into their language, because now it's like, oh, that's interesting. We're playing. It's not just this authority figure that, maybe they're going to resist. So part of it, I think, has to do with that. You can do that with any child at any age, even the older ones. Sometimes when they're on the electronics, I feel like when they get off, you kind of need to ground them a bit. I do that sometimes with my son, even though he doesn't play for that long or the whole day, but I'll be sarcastic with him. Welcome back to the real world. We missed you in digital land. What did you build in Minecraft? Get into the world. What were you working on? What were you doing? Or what happened? Here, have some real food. Taste it. And you're kind of engaging their sensory. Do you like it? Did you smell it? To kind of ground them a bit. So I think communication is a big one. Getting into their world, the language that you use, and being mindful of your nonverbals and how you're speaking to them as well.
That's awesome. I think that is the great advice for the things that are happening daily, right? Because I think it's every day there is it is going between. Every day seems like a whole week long, right? So we are like moving through that, and 1 hour everything is great, and the next hour there's massive resistance, and then there's everything's good again. Does anyone else have any advice on like how to break through some of that resistance?
So I give my daughter a lot of leeway because I know that she knows how to communicate, and I'm sure that the other ladies could probably attest to this with their own kids, because right, they have us as mothers, so it's almost like communication's not a choice. They're gonna have to communicate at some point.
Yeah.
And so she has the right. I think we need to give our kids the right to not want to talk, but they gotta talk at some point. So it doesn't have to be when I want you to talk, but it needs to be before the end of the day. You want to do that via speech and talking to me in person. You want to write me a note, which is what a lot of times my daughter has a journal and she will write, then she will hand me her journal. Can you read this and ask me about it? And that's fine. So giving them different ways or different avenues of communication. If some kids are artistic, maybe they want to color it or draw it out, or maybe they want to talk to a godmother or an aunt, right? There's other adults. They don't have to, I always say, you don't have to talk to me, but you have to talk to a safe adult, right? Your dad, your abuela, you know, people that are going to give them sage advice, obviously, that as a parent, you're comfortable with. So I think that it's probably important to give them different avenues, different modalities of communication. Communication with resistance, it needs to be somewhat on their terms, because otherwise, why else are they going to communicate with you if they don't have a vested interest in it?
Yeah, even some of the kids can prefer to text their parents. And at the beginning, initially, the parent might be like, I'm talking to my child through text. They won't, but they're talking to you. They're communicating the message. Take it. And, you know, little by little, work from there. Because some of the older ones, it's like you're having a whole conversation in different rooms through text. But you're talking, there's communication. It really depends on the pace as well.
So Stephen,
oh, I'm sorry.
Stephen had a question within those same lines of this. So he asked, I have a 14-year-old. In order to get him to do work, we have to engage him with his iPad or computer. The major problem we are having is that's when his behavior starts. So like more screen time is making more behavior happen. Any advice on this?
That reminds me of, you know, two things, because I wasn't too sure on it. So if computers and iPads and certain things like that, electronic devices, is used like as an incentive, you have to be aware of that. You know, there's other incentives that could be used, or sometimes kids will become very upset and then they don't care. As a matter of fact, as they get older, except for their phone, sometimes when you use a lot of incentives to motivate behavior, when they get to a certain older age, they want to do whatever the heck they want to do anyway, and the incentive doesn't matter anymore. So that's something to kind of monitor a little bit, if you have to use like something, you know, material for behavior. But the other thing too is just like being very clear on what is the expectation if you're going to use electronics. So is it going to be one episode? Is it going to be a game? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be, and what's going to happen next? So what you want them to do afterwards? So being very clear. And the other thing too is that I really think that kids need to settle down a little bit so if there's been a day when they've had a lot of electronics for whatever reason, because every household dynamic is different, I would strongly recommend to have something to counter that afterwards, because they're kind of like revved up a bit. It's a little bit hard for them to even focus afterwards, whether it's to go outside and take a walk if you can, if it's safe. If you have a backyard, they can kind of like let out some of that physical energy. If it's something more soothing, whatever it is, because I really think that we don't see it too much, but I think behaviorally we can see it when they're like overly stimulated with like digital stuff.
Definitely. Lynette, I'm sorry, I cut you off before. Did you have something else to add to the behaviors?
Yeah, well, just to shift it, give them their space, and then figure out a way of how to, you know, how she was saying, just bring it back. The other day, my little one was upset over something, and it was something about her room or fixing her room or something like that. And, you know, the energy was off. And I realized that we were all over it. That was one of those days that it was just like, This is this heavy feeling, and we were all feeling it. And I know I was watching something, I was scrolling, and I saw Mariana talking about the full moon in Cancer, and write what you're grateful for, and then another note of what you want to let go of, and go out to the full moon. And I texted them. We have a little chat, and even if we're in the house and they're in their bedroom, I text them. And I said, I explained that to them. Do you want to do it? And they both agreed. They're like, yeah. I said, okay, so write it down and let's meet outside. And they did. And we all read to each other what we're grateful for. And what we wanted to let go of was private, and we burnt it. We came in, the energy shifted. We were able to go to our rooms and, share TikToks and whatever they shared with me. And I went to sleep knowing that the energy had shifted, and that we all went through the motions, and that we're going to continue to have those days, and that it wasn't maybe so much about her. Maybe I was a little more testy that day. It was just, we were all stuck. And just to have compassion for yourself and for them. And just kind of, what they said was perfect. Try to navigate it and just keep that communication. That's one thing that you're going to hear me say, repeating over and over, finding the way. Maybe, how she said, maybe not verbal, but write it down, text me, write me a note, but we have to get through it. Not to let it get to a point where you're not talking to each other and you're in the same home. Because to me, it feels like for a lot of families, we've had to realize where maybe we were lacking because we're so busy. The kids are so busy. I mean, I keep talking, based on my experience because I have older kids. And we're so busy with work, with school, with after school activities. And now we have to work as a family. We have to see our faces every day. We have to do things together. And it has been hard for a lot of families to come to terms with that and deal with maybe situations that you would sweep under the rug before because you're so busy to even deal with it. So just be patient and compassionate with yourself and with them, because we're all navigating craziness right now and just going through the process.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Jamie, I don't know if this is in line with that gentleman's question, but this just occurred to me as Lynette was talking. I have a client who also has teenagers. She has like 3 teenagers in different stages of high school. And she noticed that her youngest daughter got very agitated by constantly being in front of a laptop or in front of a computer. She actually reached out to the teacher, which I thought was interesting, and said, this staring at a screen is not going to work for her. And the teacher said, you can print out whatever the virtual textbook or whatever they're using, you can print it out and she's welcome to read it, write on it, take a picture and send me the work instead of, online. I guess you can submit via online. And she just did it for that one kid, and the teacher was very accommodating because, again, it's not normal, right? Kids are not usually in front of a screen. Even if you do online school, you're not online from 8 until 3 or 4 o'clock. So I think also finding alternative ways to get school done. Some kids are probably really good in the morning, and some kids maybe want to do things at night. And again, teachers looks like they're being flexible with turn-in dates and stuff, or lack of turn-in dates. So kind of checking in with that kid of maybe what might work. This has to get done. One way or the other, this has to get done. You're not going to fail the semester and then drop the entire year just because we can't figure out a system. There are multiple ways to get it done. And so maybe that kid just needs an alternative avenue.
Yeah. Just
like we should offer them alternative communication, there must be some other alternative avenue.
I think I got the question wrong.
I might have gotten it wrong too.
No, I think you were both right. I just got more of the question in. And so his 14-year-old son is communicating with them exclusively through an app on his iPad. How can they snap him out of him and get him to talk again? And talk to him again.
So he's communicating with his parent via the app?
It looks like that, yes.
Okay, I mean,
placing demands on him to do work and communicate via his talker. I'm not sure if he's nonverbal, and he's not. I am not exactly sure. So Stephen, send us more of this question. I'm a little confused by it, but I think that a lot of the information is good, that you should try to find whatever the alternative is, not necessarily put the pressure on just for the thing that you want, but to really like know that there are other avenues out there. And if they are communicating in one way, sometimes you have to just meet them where they are, right? That can start to slide you over. All right. So there are some very good things coming out of this quarantine. There are things that I think a lot of families are getting to spend a lot of time together in a really great way, and taking a lot of the positive from this experience and being able to, take it beyond the quarantine, right? Like, are there any practices that you guys are happy are happening, that you would like to continue in either your family, or what you're seeing in other families, that this practice is like slowed us down a little bit? What are some of the practices to go into regular life as we start to transition out?
For my family, it's meditating. And that has been a breakthrough for us, because I've been trying and slowly getting into the habit. But Jay Shetty started a 21-day program of meditation. And I invited the girls and my husband and said, let's just do this one as a family. And it worked. We all spoke about it. It was a guided meditation. And we also, told each other how we felt. And now they do it even to put themselves to sleep, because my oldest is having a lot of vivid dreams, and it's because of everything I think that's going on. I think it's going around whether you either can't sleep, or having vivid dreams, or sleeping a lot because you're just so overwhelmed with life that you just want to sleep.
There's also no alarm clock in the morning for her.
Exactly.
So she could just kind of leisurely wake up and remember all those dreams too.
Yeah. Oh, that could be it too. But I did tell her to journal and just, try to keep some track of the dreams. And so she's doing it now, kind of just to put her to sleep, but it's still creating that habit. It makes her feel better. Same thing with my youngest one. And that has been working. So from here on forward, I think that's one practice that we're all going to be doing, because we just got so used to doing it now. So I think that has been a breakthrough for us, the meditation. And like I said, we're homebodies, so we're used to spending a lot of time together anyway, so that's not going to change. Maybe not as much time as we're spending now. But I think the main thing was just maybe the meditation and how to bring ourselves back. Because we're gonna, the oldest is gonna go to college, and it's so new to her, and a lot of new experiences. My youngest is going into the 8th grade, and middle school is brutal. They go through so many changes and stuff. So any practice that will bring yourself back, either at the end of the day or just to start your day, I think it's beautiful. So that's something that we've been implementing now, that we weren't doing as a family before because of everything else that goes on. So I'm just hoping that it stays.
Very nice.
I'm a big fan of all the mindfulness-based practices that any household can put in, like as something to for their own care, for stress management. My younger one actually requested a Pokemon yoga the other day. There's a channel on YouTube called Cosmic Kids, and that day, yes, it's great. And
she's very funny, that lady. She
is, and they have something for every child that you can think of.
They have Frozen too, if you want to check it out, Marianne.
I don't think that would fly here. They really like the Pokemon one, and it was great. And it was great to see my son take the initiative. Sometimes having them with me, my own practice for meditation and mindfulness based like practices have kind of shifted because they're there all the time. But I try to be intentional to get it in anyway, even if it doesn't look like 10 solid minutes, because they see me, and they know what's going on. The other day I was able to actually get them to settle down a bit because they were all over the place, and I was trying to get them to just put on their shoes so we can go on this walk for some art thing that he had to draw an insect, and they were just, I guess, maybe so excited to go out. So we did a little relaxation, you know, a little bit of grounding there. Something else that I really appreciate is, for my own self, is journaling and writing. My little one is too young, but the older one, I know some boys might like to journal, I'm not sure. But it's something that for him is a little bit different. He is in the school age where they're going to do a lot more writing. He's going to enter third grade. So I know it's crucial for him to kind of just get used to it. So I got him a little tiny journal, which he doesn't want to write on. But I told him anyway, just write 2 sentences. Just write 2 sentences. What did you like about today? And what did you not like? So of course he wrote, I don't like having to write these notes. And I was like, that's amazing. That's great. You got your sentence in. Tomorrow you can talk more about how you don't like you don't like doing this. But I think the point is for him to see that he can kind of externalize some of whatever and just put it on a little piece of paper. And I think it will be something nice for when this whole thing is over, for any household or whatever, if you want to share, to see, you know, what was some of the things that they wrote, kind of reflect back on this time, because it is very unique. And that was also part of the intention, for him to have something tangible for this, if anything.
Amen.
I'm happy with the pressure and weight that's off kids that are in school. Because this is not normal and teachers recognize this is not like their usual school day. Particularly for me, and the ladies with the older kids will know this. So my daughter's in third grade. It's a very pivotal grade with a lot of testing, and that was gone. I can't tell you how elated I was when they lifted the restriction of the standardized test, not just for Miami-Dade County, but for the state. I believe most states have lifted that restriction. The level of pressure that was off her, you know, I have a smart kid. She's a straight A student, so I wasn't worried about her not passing. But schools put a lot of pressure. It has a lot to do with how they get graded, and so I get where it's coming from. But when that was lifted, I mean, her anxiety of like making sure she kept a certain average was gone, and therefore I backed off as well. So I'm grateful for that being off of her. I'm grateful that it will be off her for a while. I mean, by the time the kids go back to physical school, they'll have been out of school almost 6 months. That's a long time for kids to be out of the routine out of school. I wanted also to say something about, I believe, Lynette, that you mentioned something about not sleeping well or you know, like having difficulty with sleep. I posted up on the Facebook group. I don't know if it posted. I kind of moved things around when I was putting it up. There's something, there's an article that was published on slate.com. It references a very interesting peer-reviewed research article conducted by Boston College on a longitudinal study that they're trying to conduct on COVID-19 and insomnia. So there is something called coronavirus insomnia, and it's like a real legit thing. And obviously the more legitimate scientific studies are published on it, the more legitimacy it will have within our field. So I posted up the article that, I mean, obviously there's no longitudinal study able to do now. Coronavirus hasn't been around that long. I think it's been around since maybe November, I believe, in Asia. So studies longitudinal have to be over a year. So but it will be interesting research, what comes out in terms of anxiety, what comes out in terms of folks that have mood disorders, women that are having children, small children that are absorbing their parents' anxiety over, am I going to have a job? Am I going to have enough to pay my mortgage? Is my mortgage going to be reduced? Kind of things that we all worry about, but not all at the same time. So I posted the link because it's actually a pretty well-written link, and I'm a research junkie, so I like to read the actual study. I'm going to look it up later, but so it's up on the Facebook group and on our thing to see if it can help anybody or serve for. I think they talk about some tactics in there about insomnia. You know, insomnia is something that's very much based on anxiety if there's no medical condition that's linked to it. So
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, you treat the anxiety, then the insomnia will be treated. So I just put the article up there if it's of any help.
I'll look for it, definitely.
That is awesome. And there's been a lot of stuff in the on the non-medical, little more woo side of it about all the dreams that are happening, right? A lot of people are in, you know, a lot of dream state. I mean, a lot because you just have a little, your sleep cycle is sort of normaling out a little more. You're not having to wake up at a certain time and all of that. And you're, you know, so the dreams and the things that you're absorbing through the day are going to come through in your subconscious. So you know, your mind is creating a lot of things, and that can sometimes lead to the sleep. The sleep seems weird to you from what you are normally experiencing. All right, so today, thank you ladies so much for today. We really, really appreciate it. We are grateful for you joining us. Thank you, Lynette and Tanya and Mary Ann. It has been a great conversation, and we are gonna keep the questions going in Facebook. You guys will check back in and answer anything that anybody has. Our community is feeling this challenge at this moment, and you know, we have a ton of great experts that we are having on here every single day at noon. We appreciate all of them. If you are feeling called to donate to this cause, there is a link in the bio for all the people that would like to donate either to an individual speaker or to the community in general. We will be here at noon again tomorrow. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.